It's going down. Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rachakwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth in sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. And welcome to another series of It's Going Down, being brought to you by the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai. Moscow warns of consequences for Europe if Russia is cut off from SWIFT. So suspending Russia from SWIFT, an international system of financial transactions between banks operated by a Belgium-based company, could massively backfire on Europe. Deputy Speaker of the Russian Senate, Nikolai, warned on Tuesday. SWIFT is a payment system. It's a service. Zaravlev told journalists. He added that cutting Russia off from it would mean that Moscow would not be able to get foreign currencies. It would also mean that Russia's trading partners, and that primarily means Europe, would not get goods they import from Russia. So you see, there's all kind of war games that are playing out right here. You got Russia who's saying, well, if you cut us off from SWIFT, then Europe will not be able to get any goods that we import to them. They say that Moscow would not be able to get foreign currencies, but it depends on what kind of foreign currencies they're talking about. Now, if the foreign currencies include the United States, that's not really necessarily a problem in Moscow. And why is that? Because Russia, I believe 2.5 years ago, Russia and China already started their own little financial trading system, is what I'm getting at. And amongst this financial trading system, they have already agreed to exclude the United States from it. So for a long time now, Russia has actually been trying to do away with the United States dollar. They don't want anything to do with the United States dollar. Why? Because the United States, through their currency, through their dollar, tried to oppress and police the whole world. And as a matter of fact, that's how the so-called elites control the vast majority of these countries. They control these countries through the monetary system, through the financial system. And Russia wants no part of that. So both Russia and China agreed to start their own financial trading system where instead of dealing in US dollars, they deal in ruble and yen. And the US dollar is excluded in that deal. It means that Russia's oil, gas, and metals, as well as other important imported products, will not reach European markets. And we know oil and gas is very important to Europe, considering the fact that Europe hardly even produces their own oil. And a matter of fact, Europe depends heavily on Russia when it comes to oil and gas. And without oil or gas, Europe could be facing a crisis where they won't be able to use their power grid as much. They'll have to turn off the electricity. They have to shut off certain power grids, which would shut off the power, the electricity, in many different countries, in many different states and the European countries. So the fact that Europe cannot get oil or gas from Russia, with this decree that's going out, would actually impact Europe way more than it would impact Russia, because Russia has its own gas reserves. that they produce to keep their vehicles running. They have their own oil reserves. On top of that, Russia has an oil reserve that goes from Syria to their country. So oil and gas will be the last thing that Russia will have to worry about. So these decrees would actually impact Europe more than it would Russia. Because Europe is very dependent on Russia when it comes to gas and oil. And without gas or oil, Europe would be forced to shut down a lot of their corporations, a lot of their factories, a lot of their power plants. A lot of people won't be able to use their vehicles because vehicles run on gas, right? Vehicles also need oil. It means that Russia oil, gas, and metals, as well as other important, notice how they put the word important. See, Russia knows this. They know how important oil and gas is to Europe. Forget about the metals. Metals is not all that important to Europe, but oil and gas is. As well as other important imported products will not reach European markets. In such a scenario, the official warned. Do they, European nations, need that? I doubt it. Zaravalev said. So, in other words, what Zaravalev is saying is, do Europe needs to be cut off from receiving important imported products from Russia? They doubt it. See, Russia knows that Europe is heavily dependent on them. The Senate's deputy speaker also said he believes a decision by Washington, here comes the United States with their decrees and influences, in London might not be enough to push SWIFT into cutting Russia out from its services. He particularly noted that the nations that have sizable amounts of trade with Russia will hardly take such pressure from the United States and the UK lightly. Russia has been one of Europe's top 5 trading partners according to the European Commission's 2020 report. It supplied more than 5% of its block imports worth 9.5 ruble, I believe $107 billion. So that's 95 billion. No, I think that's 95 billion euros, which will be $107 billion in US cash. It says it's European company and association of many nations, Zaravalev said, referring to SWIFT and adding that it would need an unanimous decision by all member states for a nation to be cut off from it. So that's pretty much all I'm going to read there. Matthew 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Okay, this is an act of war right here, right? Cutting Russia off from SWIFT, which would also impact Europe. That's an act of war, right? So we're hearing of wars. However, be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Okay, we're seeing the European kingdom rise up against the kingdom of Russia. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. With that, I'm going to say, Shalom is on to the next one.